everyone, it's Charlton. So, well, they identified the shooter in the Toronto shooting. In fact, I don't even got his name up here. Yeah, I do. Faisal Hussain. And but today, the Reuters is reporting that the Islamic State has claimed responsibility through their, through their media arm. AMAQ, I think, is the name of the AMAQ news agency. So said Wednesday, which is today. So, but they didn't provide any proof. Okay, so and the authorities continue to search for a motive. My guess is, I would be more inclined to think it was terrorism till I read that about ISIS claiming responsibility without providing proof through that agency. Because when they do, many times they do claim responsibility and they do provide proof, and they do it quickly and they do it specifically. For instance, in the and I looked it up, the motorcycle bombings in Indonesia. If you remember that family that had multiple bombings, I think 3 different incidents simultaneously. They provided proof in that case, and they provided very specific stuff that only they would know. And, it was just clear that it really was ISIS that was responsible for it. In this case, they didn't provide anything. And so, I don't know. I mean, they continue to search for a motive, like I said, but, I don't know that I necessarily believe that. And now I kind of think it's not terrorism because of that, So they do. They have provided some, and here's a picture of the individual. And he has a history of mental illness. His parents said that, but I think it's actually on record that he does. It says here that he was arrested a couple times as a minor when under the age of 18, or at least the police had encounters with him. I think it's what it says. CBC News has learned from a source close to his family that Faisal Hussain, 29 years old, was apprehended twice by police when he was under the age of 18. A police source confirmed his prior contacts with authorities involved mental health problems. Toronto police searched Hussein's apartment in the city's Thorncliffe Park neighborhood on Monday afternoon, but have said nothing about possible motive. They found a firearm and a computer from the apartment, it says. According to the police source who spoke to CBC News, investigators recovered a firearm and a computer from the apartment. The same source says the gun used in the shooting had been traced to the United States and that American authorities are helping to narrow down its origin. Continue, it says how Hussain could have obtained a firearm if he had mental health problems remains unknown to those who knew him. Police on Tuesday would not confirm any details of his medical history. And they believe he may have got the gun from his brother, who has affiliations with a gang in Toronto. But they seem extremely firm on the idea that this was not gang-related. And his brother actually is currently in a coma. Doesn't really say the reason for that. The police source, however, said there is reason to believe that Hussain may have obtained the firearm used in the attack from his older brother, who is currently in a coma in a hospital. The older brother is known to police for alleged ties to the Thorncliffe Park street gang, the source said. But again, I've seen multiple times, they are very firm that this is not gang related. At least that's what they say. So no evidence linking the shooter to ISIS, police say. And that was before the claim from ISIS claiming responsibility. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the shooting in Toronto on Sunday that killed 2 people and wounded 13. The group's AMAQ news agency said on Wednesday. The statement specifically says the attacker was a soldier of the Islamic State and carried out the attack in response to calls to target the civilians of the coalition countries. A statement by the group said. So, carried out the attack in response to calls to target the citizens of the coalition countries. It's almost saying he was a lone wolf responding to their calls to target the citizens of the coalition countries. Gotcha. I don't believe it though. Actually, you know what? Over here, and it has some. I'm sorry. It has some. This is surveillance footage of capturing him. It almost looks like the gun's at his side in his hand, but you can't really tell. And this is before the incident. I think this is earlier in the evening, just prior to. And it's just quick, but it's I hadn't seen it before, so. Here it is, and there's no audio to it anyways. Hopefully it plays for me, which it doesn't. There it goes. Wow. and that very much looks like you can see, some kind of a handgun in his right hand at his side. So, again, I just there's no proof given by the AMAQ news agency. ISIS is claiming responsibility. I'm more inclined to think that it's not terrorism as a result of that little tidbit of information. But we'll have to wait and see. Actually, uploading this, but you know what? There is more to the story. So let me just do that real quick. And that happens frequently. I'm uploading a video, I find more to the news story, and there is more to the news story. This doesn't necessarily mean this was a terror-related attack. I kind of still think it probably was mental illness, but over at Fox in the headline, it says, and Fox is getting its reporting from multiple sources, one conservative, one not conservative. ISIS claims Toronto shooting as probe reportedly finds Gunman visited terror websites, lived in the Middle East, okay? And that report right there, I'll play you the very end of it. I was pretty shocked to hear what is said in it. So it says here that Hussain had visited ISIS websites, but while officials are publicly pushing back on any ties to terror for now, reports have emerged that investigators are questioning Hussain's past. Hussain had visited ISIS websites and may have expressed support for the terrorist group. CBS News and Toronto Sun reported, citing law enforcement sources. A law enforcement source told the Toronto Sun the 29-year-old expressed support for a website that was seen as a pro-ISIS website. Officials are also investigating if Hussain lived at one time in Afghanistan or possibly Pakistan, CBS reported. Hussain's online activities have previously drawn the attention of law enforcement, and he was well known to Toronto police for investigations into past crimes involving weapons and violence, according to the Toronto Sun. So here's the Toronto Sun and the CBS report. Let me start with the CBS report because that's easier. It just says that law enforcement sources told CBS that Faisal Hussain visited Islamic State of Iraq and Syria websites and may have expressed support for the terrorist group. They were looking into whether Hussain may have lived at one time in Afghanistan and possibly Pakistan. The source said there's no indication that Hussain was directed by ISIS to carry out the attack. The assailant's family has said he suffered from psychosis and depression for years, but they never imagined he would do such a thing. It's not immediately clear whether he took his own life or was killed by police during the attack Sunday. That is a fact that's still not known. And in this same article that I had up before, I didn't play this before, but this is a very good friend of his, according to this. Close friend of Faisal Hussain, and says he knew he had mental illness, but he thought he was doing fine. So his friends knew. Okay.
I don't know. Really, I don't know. I can't say why he did it or not, and I wish he had talked to me about something like this, but do people talk to someone before they do something like that? I don't know, right?
I agree with the guy. I mean, does anybody tell anybody before they're going to do something like that? Probably not. So, but over the Toronto Sun, it says files being reviewed by police include concern Hussain expressed support for a website that was seen as pro-ISIL, says a law enforcement source. Sources say police in Toronto and CSIS officials in Ottawa as well as are looking into his past, which sources say include residents in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Hussain purportedly had been spoken to by authorities about his online activities. Wow, okay. So let me continue. It says Hussain apparently had been spoken to by authorities about his online activities. That comes as a pretty big shock to me. It really does. And it says sources say Toronto Police, the OPP, and the RCMP have all had an interest in the now deceased shooter. I guess that's 3 different law enforcement agencies, which similarly is, that's a red flag for me. I'm starting to wonder now. And what law enforcement is saying is that the attack was planned and Hussain was well known to Toronto police for investigations into past crimes involving weapons and violence. He was also known to hang out behind his building at 43 Thorncliffe. with group of 20 friends. Police were called once because they thought Faisal was carrying a gun. No gun was found, said someone who was out there. Meanwhile, Hussein's family emailed a statement to CBC outlining a lifelong struggle with mental illness, depression, and psychosis. We are utterly devastated by the incomprehensible news that our son was responsible for the senseless violence and loss of life that took place on the Danforth. So, that's the story there, and I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens from here. Initially, I just don't know. And there you have. There's what's out there. Forgot, man. This quickly, very quickly. It's only take a few seconds. This report here about there's a proposal circulating. I think it started with Trudeau of a ban on handguns in Canada, and they already have like extremely strict gun laws that I think he says it takes 5 years to get approved, but they're considering an outright ban. I was pretty stunned to hear it. Here it is.
Brian, there's now a proposal, I understand, to ban handguns after the shooting. Tell us about it.
Right, so that's right, Julie. The Public Safety Minister, Ralph Goodale, says that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is prepared to consider an outright ban on handguns. He says the government is prepared to consider the arguments for such a ban and to take that seriously. It's already much harder to acquire guns legally in Canada than it is in the United States. It's regulated federally, and a purchaser must pass a 5-year background check to buy a permitted gun.
All right, well, pretty unreal. I think I'm going to head down to the Schuylkill River today if I get time and check out if there's major flooding. We've been getting tons of rain on the East Coast. I know there's another dude, CJ Later, saying the same thing. He lives a little bit further from me. In any event, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below, and I will see you in the next video. Later, man.